Hello, today I'm going to be showing you how I made Rose Quartz's sword from Steven Universe. I started with a pattern I made on the PC and printed it out in sections. I cut the blade away from the hilt. Using some saran wrap and masking tape, I covered a foam quarter sphere to make a pattern for the hilt. Using a flexible ruler, I measured from the center to have a nice even hilt pattern. I added the stem and traced the pattern onto some craft foam, then I cut it out using an Xacto. Once cut out, I covered the halves in Worbla and connected the darts to make it round again. I used the sphere to make sure the shape was right. When both halves were done, I connected them using heat. Now for the blade, I traced my pattern onto some EVA foam. Using a sharp Xacto, I cut it out. I then cut out the line of my blade pattern and pinned it to the EVA. I traced the line. This will serve as reference for the sharp edge. The sharp edge was first cut out with a hot knife to get the majority off. Then I Dremeled it smooth. I cut a hole the size and depth of the dowel on the blade, and cut a hole the size of the blade in the hilt. I Dremeled the dowel to make it more flat. I then covered the blade in Worbla. Carefully do one side at a time and take your time. I used a push stick and an Xacto to cut the edge away. I made a quick pattern for the hilt to make it thicker and to have a good Worbla base for detailing. I also covered the thinner dowel part in Worbla to connect the blade. After that, it was a matter of sliding everything through together. I applied heat and made sure the blade and hilt were secured. Using wood filler, I hid the seams. The blade's rose was sectioned into parts and glued together using a glue gun, then covered in Worbla. Using my fingers and a push stick, I pushed in the details. I heated up and stuck it to the blade. For the spiral on the hilt, I stuck some masking tape to trace a perfect spiral. The rose on the end was built up from Worbla and scraps. I heat up scraps and rolled them to spiral them together to put at the base of the rose. I flattened another scrap roll to use some rounded lines as detailing. I used black Worbla for the rose stem detailing and used the push stick to carve a line through it. I cut many small triangles as the thorns. I used wood filler again to hide the new seams. I primed the blade with spray primer. For paint, I started with a base coat of light pink spray paint. Once dry, I covered the pink in masking tape to protect it. Then I sprayed the blade edge with white. I like to remove the masking tape right away to avoid pulling paint off with it later. Once dry, I hid the whole blade to spray the hilt with a richer pink. Now using a brush, I painted the rest of the parts in their proper color. I used oil paint to shade the start of the blade and smudged it out. Using some darker iridescent paint, I shaded the stem lines. I mixed a plum-like color in oil paint to shade the rich pink and used a Scott towel to wipe the excess. I decided to give the blade something extra with some plastic roses and petals in the hilt. It's now ready to be varnished. I use lacquer for extra shine. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.